Just walk away. Just walk away, and there will be an end to the horror.
Alright, hello everybody, we're live. I'm not getting any feed in my chats. I'll look into that in a second. But anyway guys, welcome back to MGTOW Chats episode 63. This is a retake of what a week ago or so when I tried to have Max on my show and I had horrible connection problems. I think it was the worst I've ever had. And then of course he just told me, plug directly into the modem. I tried it and it works like a bloody dream. So thanks for that advice, actually.
Yeah, no problem. It's one of many nifty things I know. I've been working with computers. I'm an old computer nerd, so you know, I know all these tricks.
All right. Guys, I just need to check the...
I see people in the chat there, Ayam.
I know, but it's not coming through on my OBS, which I don't understand why.
Well, don't know either. Shall we talk while we wait for something to happen, or?
Yeah, I'm just kind of poking around at it right now. But anyway, if it doesn't work, it's not the end of the world. It's not a big deal. Ah, there it is. Magic? No? What? Anyway, while I'm screwing around with this, you guys, the last show you understand it was a bit of a failure, but I want to have Max now go in. We're going to go back through a lot of his history, which I think is very interesting, and I'm sure you guys will want to hear it. And I know we had a few listeners last time, and it just unfortunately just didn't work, so I had to delete everything that was put up. But why don't we start from there, Max? Let's start. I want you guys to know that I have links to his new group, Red Pill Religion, in the bottom. The first link is an older one, and they are starting a new channel, which will be the second link, so I've put them both up. But why don't you kind of explain to us first about your new group?
Well, it's not really that new a group. We've been running under the Red Pill Religion banner for more than a year now. I can't remember exactly when we switched to that name, but it's been a while. And the most reliable place to find us, by the way, is redpillreligion.com. And the genesis of redpillreligion.com, it basically came out of severe hostility and even persecution, I would label it, that I and others in MRA circles experienced. I don't know that I want to go into all the details about it, but we're very red-pilled, and we are strong critics of secular social justice, of feminism, and of ideological atheism, which not all atheists. In fact, we have atheist volunteers who've been on our team from the beginning, and we have atheist friends that we joke with and have fun with and talks with, but we're pretty much at war with the ideological atheist set because we think they're core to the social justice and feminist set. We also talk about a great deal about philosophy. We enjoy, since I and others were part of things like Gamergate and stuff, we periodically have nerd streams because we still think nerd culture is important, and we like that stuff. So we do stuff on video games and comics and entertainment at least once a week. But mostly what we're trying to do is provide a space for guys to talk about philosophy.
Right on.
So we've interviewed historians, we've interviewed scientists, we've interviewed UFO experts. We talk with people of various religions, including, we've had on pagan shaman. We had a pagan shaman on our initial team, and we got pagans and witches and Jews and Hindus, and even don't tell anybody. Even Muslims hang out with us sometimes. Don't tell anybody about them, because But anyway, yeah, and a big part of that is that we like to say we explore the intersection of religion, politics, and culture, because none of those things can ever be separated. And one of the things that is happening is the resurgence of religion all around the globe, and that's one of the things we document and talk about too, because secularism is, especially aggressive anti-religious secularism, is on its way out, and the world is changing politically. So we're trying to document that too.
That's great. That's great. Hey, and if you ever have me on your show, then that'll be another Muslim you'll have on your show. So
Well, we want to have Muslims on because it's important. One of the many, you got a lot of noise coming out of your end there,
no,
dude.
that's Lamprey. Lamprey, is that you banging around?
Yeah, give me a second, all right?
Okay.
Give me 1 second.
Can we mute him somehow? But because man, okay, I'm sorry. What was I saying? One of the reasons that we despise so many figures like Sargon of Akkad and a lot of them in that thuggish militant atheist clique of theirs, these skeevy skeptics, which we're very critical of them, and they deserve it. And they're mostly cowards and run, is because there's nothing constructive about their approach to Islam at all. There's nothing constructive about it at all. There's just literally no way they cannot have a sane discussion with a Muslim, which is stupid on so many levels. I don't know where to begin, right? But the people in that so-called rationalist community turn completely irrational at the prospect of having to speak to religious people as if they are equal human beings to them, or they gravitate to the most radical voices. Whereas I have had, Muslim friends or at least positive encounters with Muslims for decades, and knew a good bit about the Islamic religion before 9/11 and all that. And at some level, if you cannot speak to Muslims, then you pretty much guarantee the worst possible outcome. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So all these guys, they can say whatever they want. I mean, I'm saying this as a Christian, and I'm a real serious one. And I really would like all Muslims to come to Christ, but I know hectoring them is not going to do that. Treating them like garbage is not going to do that. Having any kind of useful, constructive dialogue doesn't happen when you treat people that way. So all these people will sit there, for example, screaming, Muhammad was a baby raping, warlord, pillager. It's like, dude, okay, all right, you have the freedom to say that. Now what? You said it. Now what? Did you have anything more constructive to add, or what? We're just gonna go kill these people now? I mean, what is it you expect to do beyond being insulting? And of course, they have no answer. It's utterly absurd. As a Christian, I can say to you, you're a Muslim, right? You're out with that.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Yeah, you're a Muslim. I can say to you unreservedly, I can say, Assalamu alaikum, brother. I can say that as a Christian, because there's nothing wrong with what that phrase says.
It's just Arabic for peace be with you, but
that's correct. that is truly all it is. And if you said that to me, I really would say alaikum salam, and that might be the start of a conversation, because you would know I'm able to have a conversation with you about these things.
Yeah. And
this is something men, I think, need to learn. Even if you're going to stay a dogged atheist, which most men don't, by the way, I can show you statistics on that. Even if you're going to stay one, if you don't know how to make a religious friend and keep a religious friend, and get along with the religious people in general, you're not going to have a real easy life, because religion and religious people are very much part of the world and part of the human animal, and are never going to go away ever.
Yes.
And so you better learn to get along with them. And in fact, when I started the whole thing, that was the only conversation I wanted to have with people in men's rights or MGTOW or anyone in the so-called atheist community. How are you, the atheist minority, going to figure out how to get along with the rest of us who won't be atheist with you? And all it did was get me pilloried and attacked and smeared and lied about. Oh my God, those people have lied about me so much, it's ridiculous. But that's okay. We've embraced it, and we're doing our thing on Red Pill Religion.
That's
we're
great.
We're probably best known for our atheist response videos, because atheist videos are mostly really stupid, and mostly very predictable, mostly. But we, you know, like I said, we branch out. We still talk about men's issues all the time. And we talk about other politics as well. So that's a long ramble, but that's what we're about these days.
No, that's great. And I do encourage you guys to go check out both the links.
Yeah, we are starting a new YouTube channel because that old channel was actually repurposed from an old men's rights channel, which was totally not what it was meant for, because our previous channel was shut down and suspended. We've actually been shut down and suspended a bunch of times, and we've been shadow banned by a bunch of people. Sorry, but you know, we're just starting a new channel. We're going to see if we can start fresh. We're going to cuss less. We're gonna try to be nicer and not as mean, because we get rowdy sometimes. We're going to try to be nicer. So that's the new channel. I'm announcing it publicly here. Officially, it wasn't supposed to open until January 1st. But
Okay, right on. And you talking? Let's kind of digress into the censorship stuff that's happened with your channel. Like, when did you first start? I don't know. When did you first start the old channel?
The old channel was a little over 3 years ago, if I'm remembering correctly. Jean Baptiste, who's one of my old men's rights and
He's in the chat.
Gamergate, he's in the chat there. He's one of the founders, the co-founders of Red Pill Religion. Love you, brother. Old MRA, old Gamergate MLG guy. That was the initial project I started, which I could get no support from at all, is I had wanted to open up a dialogue in the men's rights community about hostility to religious men and why that needed to change. I was pretty viciously attacked just for that, and actually had people try to deconvert me, which is just freaking creepy, guys. Oh my God. So I didn't even know what was going on for a while there. But after a while, I figured it out, and I read some of the, you know, shit like how to convert a Christian into an atheist, and started looking at all the atheist forums, that all the garbage. But it was just I forgot what got me off on that.
Well,
but
I was just going to ask you how long.
Suspended about 3 years. How long? What?
How long you had it? You said 3 years. The old one.
Let's see. First, there was something called God and Man in the 21st Century. That never went anywhere. Got no support even from so-called friends, even though it was nice and reasonable. That was almost 4 years ago. 3 years ago and change, we started it. We called it Escaping Atheism, and we were being funny and provocative, and we were teasing atheists and trying to kind of parody guys like Atheism is Unstoppable and Sargon's more inflated videos, because we thought that the atheist community would want to have fun, because they liked mocking and they liked savagery and they liked going after each other. So we thought, well, we'll start making fun of atheists. And they don't like it. They don't like it at all. They have no sense of humor about themselves. And we had people come on the channel, like say they wanted to talk to us and have a polite religious conversation, and then start flashing porn on the screen, and then all their friends would group
Are you
to take
serious?
it off. Yeah, we had a guy pull that. We had multiple reports, multiple suspensions on that old channel. I don't remember when that was, but then it was like, all right, I'm going to use my old Dean Esmay. I go by Max now online, but I'll use my old Dean Esmay account, which was kind of a cluttered thing, but at least it had some subscribers, and we moved to that, and we changed that. We got suspended a couple of times. I will say that some of our bitterest enemies in the atheist community, who we don't like and don't get along with, some of them did come to our defense once, especially at Non Sequitur Show. They really did, even though we hate each other. Really, there's a lot of mutual animosity, but they came to our defense once. Just credit for that. And I don't know. I don't know when all this timeline happens. I mean, I got suspended from Twitter for life.
I'm suspended for life
within a
too,
year.
man. Welcome
Yes.
to the club.
For life. Because I said "fuck you" to someone.
Yeah, I'm suspended for life too, man.
And it wasn't even that. It was more of a humorous "fuck you" in the same way, because the account was marked as satire, savage satire and comedy. We're here to mock people. But no, it didn't work. It doesn't work for social leftists, ideological atheists, and feminists. It's one standard for them and a different standard for everyone else. So,
well, at least you know why you got banned. They didn't even tell me why. It was just one day gone.
They didn't tell me, so I'm not sure if it was that or because I made the mistake of posting about this online conspiracy thing called QAnon,
Oh yeah.
which I find interesting. Although I'm not a quote unquote true believer, I do find it interesting, and I watch what's going on with it, just like I watch a lot of other alternative media stuff. I don't trust anybody anymore.
So
Um,
you don't know the exact reason. You're kind of making an assumption that it was because they can retroactively just they can find a tweet you did fucking 3 years ago and just go that's gone.
It was right after I had said "fuck you" to a couple of professional atheists. No, I mean it was within minutes. I'm like, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Maybe
so it could have been.
you should say "fuck you" to people. It's not being a good Christian to say "fuck you" to people, but
Internet's a dirty place, man.
we were mocking and using that kind of language. I'm sorry, what?
I'm here.
Okay, brother.
What's up, guys?
We're just going over a bit about
Red
Max's.
Pill Religion, what we've been doing these days, yeah.
Yeah, his channel, Red Pill Religion, and you.
We're very friendly. We are very MGTOW friendly. We have people who don't like us in both camps, and that's fine too, because that's the way shit is. But
Well, my apologies for joining late. My phone was charging. What you're talking about religion? If you already went over this, pardon me. But what you're a Christian? What sect of Christianity are you?
I'm a Roman Catholic,
Okay.
former atheist, and a convert to Catholicism.
What you converted to? No. Were you baptized as a child as a Catholic, or you converted later on?
No, I converted in my 40s.
What were you born as?
I was born in a non-religious home, and we had absolutely no overt spirituality in the house of any kind.
What is your ethnic group? Where are you from in the state? Are you from America? Are you I'm sorry, are you from the United States? Are you from Canada? What state and stuff?
I was born in El Paso, Texas.
Okay.
Somewhere around the age of 8 or 9, my stepfather decided he was going to fix his marital problems with my mother, who would all she's her second husband, so you can already tell what's wrong there. She was well, anyway, I'm not going to get too much into my family, but he decided to turn us Presbyterian. My bio dad tried turning me into like a fundamentalist. This was all, I'm already like 8, 9 years old. None of it stuck. By the time I was 13, I walked away and didn't want any of it. I left home by the time I was 15, and by the time I was 20, I think I was more or less a committed atheist by the time I was 25. I was never a serious Christian.
Okay, so what made you choose Catholicism over? Because being from Texas, you have a lot of like Mickey Mouse versions of Christianity. So what made you go with the most basic form of Christianity, the original form of Christianity, which is Catholicism? What drew you to that to convert to Catholicism?
Before I answer that question, I do want to emphasize that on Red Pill Religion, we're not a Catholic channel. We're not running a ministry. We're talking about cultural and political issues and philosophy. And like I've said, we've had atheist friends and volunteers, agnostics, Buddhists, Hindus, witches, pagans. We had a pagan shaman on our original team. So we're not a Catholic. We're not a Catholic apologetic show. Now, to answer your question, though, I'm out with my religiosity because I'm not willing to hide it anymore. And it is part of why we do what we do, which is mostly just provide a philosophical space for young men to explore ideas they don't get in the education system. But what drew me to Catholicism? Essentially, I decided that Christianity, what was calling me, that atheism made no sense anymore. For a variety of reasons. I did a lot of exploring of other religions. I essentially decided if Christianity was going to call me, that I really wanted to know who had the best claim on being representative of the early church, who could say historically most reasonably that they were the ones following things of the early church. I'd had limited exposure, but some to multiple forms of Christianity, including the Catholics. What I eventually discovered was Orthodox Christianity generally, which is wildly different than the forms of Christianity which are most prevalent in the English-speaking world. Although there's a lot of us, we're at least 1/3 to 40% of Christians. People don't know about Orthodox type Christians. That's the phrasing we use, Orthodox type Christians. Most of the people on our team are Orthodox, if they're Christian, are Orthodox type Christians. Jean Baptiste is Eastern Orthodox. Our friend Andrew Strutelites, he's not just our friend, he's a part of the founding team. He's a very, very serious Orthodox Anglican.
Which is what, Protestant?
No, well, okay, it's a long.
You say Orthodox. When I think of Orthodox, I think of Greek Orthodoxy, and other one would be Catholicism. Those are the two, again, most basic forms of Christianity. I don't really consider Protestantism a real serious form of Christianity because, as you can see in Europe, you can see with the Church of England, which used to be Catholic prior to the referendum, is that, there's a lot of these subgroups of Christianity that really become quite belligerent and kind of silly. That's why I think Catholicism and Greek Orthodox seem to be the most basic, fundamental versions of Christianity.
John Baptiste, let me address some of the comments. John Baptiste says he wants to point out that Eastern Orthodox is just as old as Roman Catholics.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
All right, okay, I take it you're Catholic then.
Yes, I am.
Okay,
he's Italian, man.
Ave Maria. All right, and you are a good staunch, loyal Roman Catholic, and Ave Maria. I'm consecrated to Our Lady, by the way, and I try to live it every day. But within our mission, we take what's called a pan-Orthodox perspective, and that's because that's a big movement within Catholicism and within other branches of what is broadly called little o orthodoxy. There's actually identifiably 4 branches that can all plausibly claim they have valid apostolic succession and therefore valid successions, valid sacraments, okay, which means valid apostolic succession. Rome recognizes this now. So we can accuse them of schism or they can accuse us of schism, but if you can't just take a pan-Orthodox perspective, there's basically 4 versions of Christianity, maybe 5, that can say this. It's not just the East. You're calling them the Greek Orthodox, but they're best called the Eastern Orthodox. There's also the Oriental Orthodox, who actually split from both Rome and Constantinople in the 400s, and the Assyrian Church of the East, which split from Rome and Constantinople both, also in the very early 400s. And you would ask me, my question is how I found myself to Catholicism, was studying all these branches that claimed that held this claim that they could go back to the original, that they had unbroken apostolic succession. And a 5th of them, in defense of the Anglicans, again, the Anglican community, of course, has gone into complete dissolution. But what's actually in England, but what's actually happened is in the Southern Hemisphere, especially in South America and especially Africa, the Anglican communion is exploding with memberships and conversions, although most of them are probably going to break with the Church of England soon. And the Anglicans that are surviving are the ones who maintain that they have valid apostolic succession, that Rome is wrong. And they are the most Orthodox type of Anglicans, which means they still go to something called Mass. They still revere the Heavenly Host and the Virgin Mary. They still believe, they still even hold to transubstantiation as a doctrine. So they have a claim on it. And serious Orthodox Anglicans are just hideously embarrassed. So we're taking it from that, what you might call a liberal pan-Orthodox perspective, and we find we have an awful lot in common. We have a member of the Assyrian Church of the East on our moderator team, and he's awesome to talk about with because they schismed from Rome and Constantinople in like 430. I mean, literally about 1,600 years ago. Yet most of their practices and beliefs, they have differences, but most of their practices and beliefs are the same. They're far more like us. And it was actually in discovering these groups, like the Coptics and the Ethiopian Orthodox, who are not with, they broke off from Rome and Constantinople both, but they all still have bishops that go back to the apostles. They still all take the Eucharist seriously. They all take confession seriously. They all take baptism seriously. They all take holy orders seriously. They have priests they call father. They've maintained all of these traditions continuously for after 1,600 years of separation from the rest of us, which I as an outsider going in viewed that as proof that all the things that the Protestants said that the Roman Catholic lied about were not lies. Because all these other groups that broke off so far long ago were still practicing most of the things they said were Catholic lies. And so
Correct.
that to me was just proof. And then it was a question of, well, I think these all arguably all have a good claim on being the original church. What makes the most sense? And I ultimately did decide, well, what makes the most sense familially and culturally is Catholic, and also there's family there. And I do think the key of Peter matters. So that's a long answer that a Catholic would understand. If people aren't into religion, let's just say Orthodox type Christianity in general is nothing like the Bible thumpers. It's just not the same religion. It's starkly different. It's about as starkly different as I would say, if we were to compare it to Islam, Orthodox type Christianity, Orthodox Catholic Christianity, is more like Shia Islam, loosely is, and Protestant Christianity as a lot more like Sunni.
Oh, okay, interesting.
As compared to Sunni. Well, because the Sunni just go by the Quran, and you're going to find whichever school of Quranic interpretation is most important to you, and whereas if you are a Shia, there's a line going back to a succession, basically, among the mullahs / ayatollahs, and they appoint each other. They're not by popular consensus. That you get to be a mullah when the other mullahs make you a mullah.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is it doesn't, whether it's Sunni or Shia, they both don't just follow the Quran. Unfortunately, they have a series of books called the Hadith that they follow. So it's not just the Quran. I mean, I'm as a Muslim myself, I lean towards Quran alone, Islam, and that makes everybody my enemy. So.
Well, I would actually, if I were a Muslim, I'd be mad at you too.
Yeah, you would.
Because I'm actually a big fan of, if you're going to learn from authority. Don't just think you're smart enough to understand it yourself. Learn from the masters. Learn from the traditions that have survived the test of time, and that's how I would see it.
Yeah.
Going back to what you stated earlier, there's a lot of monasteries in Greece where the Eastern Orthodox and the Roman Catholic Church share monasteries, and they pray together and they share scriptures and stuff. I think it really comes down to the Pope, and a lot of people that are non-Catholic get afraid of the concept of the Pope, that we have to obey by whatever the Pope says, and we listen to the Pope and obey the Pope and stuff. Right? Yes, yeah, which is not true at all.
No, it's not. I'll tell you a neat gift. You'll like this story. Long story short, I was doing a 33-day consecration to Mary thing, and during this time, just out of the blue, my doctor, who I've known for years and we've never talked religion, he says, "Are you Catholic?" I'm like, "Yeah." He says, "Here, I have something for you." He leaves. He comes back from his office and he hands me a rosary he bought in the Holy Land at the Church of the Nativity. There, and he says, "I'm Greek Orthodox, I'm Eastern Orthodox, but both Eastern Orthodox and Catholics both share this church. So I thought I would get a rosary for a Catholic friend, and I bought it, and I went and got a Catholic priest bless it for me, and here you go." That was such a neat gift. This is why I have a great love for the Eastern Orthodox, actually. So that's me.
Right on, man.
This is not all we talk about. We do argue with some Protestants a lot, but we also have Protestant friends, and
you should be arguing with Protestants, because you have to understand where Martin Luther comes from. It was just a bit of an operation to pillage the Catholic Church and all of its all the massive wealth that it gained during the medieval times, because
note on the door.
During the Dark Ages, everyone was poor. And the only vassal that was, gaining wealth at that time was, in fact, the Catholic Church. So the Church of England was a way to, I guess, rob the Catholic Church from what it built during the Dark Ages.
Well, a discussion of religion and history is just hugely useful. And when we talk about these things on Red Pill Religion, We do it pretty well, I think. We brought in actual real historians, and as well as we bring people in to give these various perspectives on what this history looks like, because people have a really distorted view. They're brainwashed about religion in colleges. They really are.
Well,
Even though
that's because
even though as Catholics,
that's because our post-secondary system is run by people that despise God.
yes.
So they're not going to give you honest truth about the historicity of religion. Absolutely not. You're right. Anyway,
No, they're
sorry to interrupt.
certainly not. No, you're absolutely correct. In fact, one of the red pills a lot of people need to take, and I think Jordan Peterson and a few others are helping a lot of guys see this. Feminists have lied to you about everything.
Yeah.
The social justice leftists have pretty much lied to you about everything, not, with twisted half truths and all that. And the ideological atheists have lied to you about the history of religion. Even though I, as a Roman Catholic, am not exactly unbiased, it's fascinating how we can't we there's defense of the church in throughout history in all these things we're supposedly accused of, and this is true of other religious groups too. Like, I can't wait. One day, we haven't had it yet, but we really need to have a real conversation with a Muslim, a Catholic, and an Eastern Orthodox about the Crusades. We need to do that because it's all three perspectives are interesting. And one of the things, that it gets into is even when they talk to you about the Crusades, man, it was way more than just a religious conflict. It just was.
Yes.
And it was, and like all big wars, it was messy. Like, one of the realities was, there were there were Christians on the inside defending alongside the Muslims in some cases because they didn't like the Crusaders. And there were Muslim allies to the Christian Crusaders who were helping. I mean, and that's just one of the messy realities of what that all was. And people want to pretend that economics and other things played nothing into that. Yeah. Horseshit.
No,
and actual history is interesting, and guys who reduce it to cartoons like that fuck Sargon of Akkad. God, what an idiot! God, what a nasty man and an idiot! Guys are being robbed of an authentic look at what history has really been like and what religion really is. And by the way, if I can give it to you straight, man, I Paul Elam over at Voice for Men is too much of a pussy to talk about this, but. The truth is, atheism is actually dying really fast worldwide, including in Europe, including in America, including in Canada, including in Australia. Religion is massively on the rise. And if we look at what statistics on atheists now, because we have them, we've had this popularized atheist movement for a decade and a half now. I mean, it started even earlier than that, but ever since those dumbass Four Horsemen came out, and the indoctrination we see in the schools. In fact, we know some interesting things about atheism. This is why we talk about it and why it's a men's issue, too. More than 90% of self-declared atheists are male. That is a very significant statistic, and that's been found by a number of social scientists. I'll give you references to anybody if you want. More than 90% of them are male. On the other hand, the claim that it's because of higher IQ has been debunked. Atheists do not have significantly higher IQs than the general population. That's as fake a statistic as the feminist wage gap is. But they are more than 90% male, and more than 90% of them have broken relationships with their fathers, either absent father from the home or really shitty, abusive, or weak father.
That I believe 100%, man.
We have full-on social science for it. So all these guys who say they're scientific rationalists, look at the peer-reviewed data. We have it. And not only that, but the atheist forums online lie to you. Atheists are actually more likely to go to jail, not less. Atheists are more likely to be suicide. They're about 8 times more likely to suicide. So we talk about how men are more than 10 times, something like 10 times as likely. Atheists in particular, that correlates very high. The atheists are the most likely to kill themselves. They suffer from higher rates of depression, higher rates of substance abuse, and higher rates of unstable relationships They do not have higher IQs. This is all propaganda that comes out of cultural Marxism, and we have the science to show it. Even if you're not going to become a Christian, you need to take the spiritual seriously. You'll get sick if you don't.
Well, most atheists I know are very they have a very negative, pessimistic view on the world. They seem to be depressed. The ones that I've met and spoke to in my passings in life. Yeah, and you're absolutely right about religion on the rise. There's no doubt about it. You can see it in the Middle East. People are becoming more. Much more orthodox forms of Islam. You have a rise of evangelicalism, which I actually find to be quite frightening, especially in the United States, because evangelicals have these very warped views on God and Jesus and the Bible. So I definitely agree with you on everything you stated.
They're more prone to fall for the American civic religion and thinking America is this special place God made just for.
Well, Catholics have had a really bad rap living in the United States. Americanism is not Catholicism, and we need to understand that. Yeah. I think that's very important. The highest rates of deaths in the military in the 20th century were in fact Catholics during World War I and World War II. It wasn't Protestants. It wasn't evangelicals. It wasn't Jews. It was, in fact, Catholics that suffered the most during World War II.
In fact, the atheist and so-called rationalist forums online have peppered the internet. Mind you, they announced more than 10 years ago, I can document all this, that their plan to take the internet for atheist rationalism. That's what all the atheist forums are, and they are filled with propaganda that's easily debunked if you actually know how to go to the library and look up books. So they'll tell you Hitler was a Catholic, and no, that's a lie on multiple levels. Yes, he was baptized Catholic and professed it once briefly early in his career, but he turned staunch atheist and or occultist, depending which day of the week you wanted. He eventually purged all the Christians completely out of his government and out of his upper officers, and massacred actually millions of Catholics and Lutherans. Maximilian Mary Kolbe, my confirmation saint, the name I fly under online, was in fact murdered by the godless Nazis, and he was in Auschwitz for the crime of being a faithful Catholic priest. But when we talk about this, I want to add, many Lutherans were martyred in the camps for similar reasons. Yeah. And Mussolini in Italy also murdered countless Catholics and persecuted them. You'll read online that Mussolini had good relations with the church. No, that is propaganda. Mussolini went through periods of kind of getting along with the church and brutally repressing the church. That's the real history, but you don't get that on the internet.
No, and you don't get that from Google for sure. But
no, Google's got a hate on for all religion.
Well, I mean, any kind of extreme socialism, which is a hop, skip, and a jump away from communism, is incompatible with religion and God. It's absolutely incompatible.
Well, what they often do, and the Nazis did this, and also this happened in communist China.
It's happening now.
Oh, well, I know, but no. Let me get something specific. The Nazis created something called positive Christianity. You can look it up. Those two words together. One of their propaganda ministers created something called positive Christianity. And what it was basically fake Christianity that held up Jesus as more of a mythical hero than anything else, and as Christian philosophy as basically race nationalism. And totally compatible with Nazism. And not just the Catholics, but the Lutherans, to give them credit, and even the Jehovah's Witness rebelled hard against that shit. And that got more than 3 million Christians killed in those camps. They were mostly, but not all, Catholic, and it's important to note that. I would also note, as a simple matter of record, secular atheist regimes in China and Russia and other countries, Romania and the Eastern Bloc, have murdered Catholics, have murdered Eastern Orthodox Christians by the millions. Our Eastern Orthodox brothers in the Holodomor, more than 10 million Eastern Orthodox Christians perished. It's greater than the Holocaust against the Jews, and it's mostly religious targeting, by the way, of Eastern Orthodox Christians. The church was nearly destroyed. I will also mention that these regimes are known for oppressing and murdering Muslims and Hindus as well as Jews. And they go after religious Jews more than they go after secular Jews. And so for all that we talk about Muslim terrorism, and Muslim terrorism is a thing, but we need to talk about it like adults, not just rant about it. Even that is often been in the face of what they perceive as vicious aggression toward their culture, which is true. Right now, for example, and we speak out about these things all the time on Red Pill Religion, whether people like to hear it or not, there's a group of over 800,000 Muslims in China that is being brutally repressed, and the regime openly admits what it's doing to them, which is basically putting entire families in education and re-education camps, taking their children away from them, forcing them to renounce Islam and become atheists, or just stay forever in the camps. And they're often tortured. They're simply trying to kill these people. Now, if you're a scumbag like, I don't know, Crown T or some other, I'm against religion pissant, you think this is all good. I'm not good with it at all. As a Christian, I want them to know the truth of Christ, and I think they're missing something big time. But murdering them and doing this to them is not okay. And I would mention, by the way, when I said the Nazis made a fake positive Christianity, the Chinese regime under Mao created something called secular Buddhism. You'll find some of these people talking about secular Buddhism over here in the United States. Secular Buddhism was a despiritualized. Buddhists have a vague concept of God, but greater than that, they have a whole very deep supernatural spirituality. And the Maoists brutally were ideological atheists and brutally murdered tens of millions of authentic Buddhists. And burnt down their pagodas and tortured them. They are, even now, there's another religion called Falun Gong, and the Chinese are known for like torturing them on the streets, for taking them in and then harvesting their organs.
Yep, I've heard of that too, man.
All of this shit is happening, and none of it should be okay. One of the horrors of I found as a former atheist myself is that no one in the atheist community will do anything about any of this. It's one of the reasons we think the atheist movement, not just the average atheist who's not into religion, but the guys who are into it as an identity and are anti-religion in general. People who are anti-religion are the worst totalitarians that have ever existed. And should never be trusted. People have been killed more in the name of anti-religion than any others. Even Vox Day, the alt-right guy who's very, 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 very anti-Muslim, has published his own data showing that if you add up all the religious wars in history, Islam has the most violent record overall. But there's reasons for that, and more to the point, it's dwarfed by what secular regimes have done and by what non-religious conflicts have done. And secular regimes have just murdered and murdered and murdered and murdered and murdered, and they're frequently just trying to kill religious people.
Well, you know,
right.
When it comes to extreme socialism or communism, the state becomes God. I mean, they have to replace God with the state. And that's why you see that.
That's exactly right. And that's why they don't like religion. People in power right now don't like religion because religious people think independently. You can't just go up to religions and say, I have a new scientific study, so I'm right. We think independently. Yeah. Much more so than so-called free thinkers.
That's right.
And that's because we believe something. Even I'm sitting here talking to a Muslim, but I mean, really, I've had conversations like this. I had a pagan priestess on. Betrothed to Freya, very serious woman too. Actually, it stunned me. She was well versed in Aristotle and natural law, and I had an easier time talking to her because religious people think independently, and the state doesn't like that. The state wants you to accept the party line and what it says is science.
Yes, absolutely.
And a lot of what they tell you is science is not science in any way.
Well, there's a new kind of science out today. It's called scientism.
Oh God.
All you have, basically, science to most people is I look at a website called I fucking love science, therefore I'm a scientist and I understand the world around me. And that's
such a poisonous site. That's a poisonous page too. I fucking love science. It's not that they swear. They're ideological atheist materialists, and it's stupid. What they call science isn't science.
No, it's a religion. It's a religion.
It is. And they're totally Oh my God, they report it so wrong. Scientific naturalism. I rant about this many times. Scientific naturalism is an ideology of science that these ideologues like Lawrence Krauss and Mike Tyson and Carl Sagan
Not Mike
and
Tyson, Neil deGrasse Tyson.
deGrasse Tyson. Sorry,
Don't
Mike
get.
Tyson.
Here's a big
Sorry.
difference.
Mike
Well,
Tyson's way
you know,
cooler, man.
You know, and now I was about to make a race joke, but no, I meant Neil Tyson. Yeah. But Lawrence Krauss, they're idiots.
Well,
And
those people are they're the priests.
Richard Dawkins too.
Yes,
Oh my
Richard
God,
Dawkins.
he's a fraud. He's a total fraud.
They're priests. They're the priests of scientism, which is a religion, and Clifford Watson says a religious cult, which is more
Absolutely
accurate.
correct.
But
They are a religious cult.
It's a religion without God, basically.
Yes, what they've done is elevated what they call human reason.
Yeah.
And rationality and what they call science, even though much of what they say is science is not science. It is a religion, and when you place human reason and rationality at the center of your philosophy, what always happens is you turn irrational and nuts.
Yeah, because it's flawed. Human reason isn't perfect.
It's flawed. Human reason is intentionally flawed. You want to know, that pussy Sargon who's been has been ducking me for 3 years now, and spreading lies about me, dickhead. It was so hilarious. He had a conversation about some political philosophy book they had read. Another one of the materialist philosophers, and materialist philosophy is dumb, but whatever. They're arguing, and Sargon literally says to the guy, "I read the same book you did. How come you came to the wrong conclusion?"
What book?
How can you? And it's like this man literally can't understand that two people may look at the same set of facts and draw a completely different interpretation. And people look at him like he's some great intellect. One of the things you have to learn is that people will come to, intelligent men need to learn how to entertain ideas they don't believe in, just so they can try to understand them. Yeah. And intelligent men have to accept that other men will often look at the exact same set of facts and come to a different conclusion. This is why you get hung juries at criminal trials. This is why you have debates among scientists all the time. This is why people have debates at all. And this is why you have to learn to understand other points of view rather than just assuming you know everything. And when you join that seedy skeptic movement, they're actually taking you away from that. Because skepticism is the most empty, stupid, incoherent philosophy on planet Earth.
I agree with that, man. Absolutely.
It totally is. And I can prove this. I mean, if you look at the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy and other standard texts, they'll tell you it is an open question whether you can learn anything at all through skepticism. Yeah. It is an open question and has been for thousands of years. I mean,
there's no conclusions.
Well, actually, there is a conclusion. Check me on this. Whenever you are skeptical, you are doing one of two things. You are either refusing to come to any conclusion, or you are assuming that what you already think is true is true. That's all skepticism ever is. You're either assuming that what you already think is true, or you're refusing to to come to a conclusion at all. And there is no time that you're skeptical that you're not doing one of those two things.
Well, skepticism should be it's not a state of being, man. It's a movement from one point to another. You know what I mean?
It's to express doubt about a proposition.
Yes, exactly.
And that's all it is.
Yes.
And you can cast doubt about anything. Now, I'm not a young Earth creationist, but I can cast doubt on evolution if I want. I can be skeptical of evolution. If I want to be, although I'm pretty sure the Big Bang Theory is true. By the way, a Catholic priest formulated that for you, so you're welcome. The Big Bang Theory may not be true. I can be skeptical of it if I want to be. I can be skeptical of you. I can be skeptical of anything I want at any time for any reason whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And that's why
it's not a permanent state of consciousness, though. That's ridiculous.
no, there's these people. There's a whole generation of young people, particularly in the U.S. and Canada, who've been taught that being skeptical is how you be smart. But it's this. It's totally the opposite. It's this little neurolinguistic programming trick. So you listen to the skeptics like Randy, who's a fraud, or Penn Jillette, who's a fraud, or Michael Shermer, who's a fraud, or Sam Harris. Sorry, but he's a fraud. They're telling you what to be skeptical of.
Yes. Yeah.
Skeptical of them, they fall apart like a house of cards 90% of the time. So
you're saying that the Earth is not flat, is what you're saying?
I'm saying it probably isn't, but you know what? I've seen enough fucked up shit. I understand why some people think it is, because we've been lied to about so many things. I don't know. I think if you're really red pill, you'll see the government, schools, and the media have been lying to us about everything our whole fucking lives.
Pretty much everything.
So
yeah.
I refuse to laugh at a flat earther anymore. I'm just like,
too,
I've watched videos, and I don't think they're right, but I have no interest in arguing. And I'm not going to call them crazy. They're people with a different point of view, an odd one, similar to the hollow earthers, and I actually learned things by looking at flat Earth videos that I didn't know, which I thought was interesting. So it was fun. I think you should be able to entertain ideas you don't agree with. I think that's the real mark of an educated mind. That's what Aristotle said. Entertain an idea that you don't agree with and take it seriously instead of just trying to quote unquote debunk it. Go look at some of the good flat Earth videos and see if you can defeat them. I'm not holding out for flat Earth. My point is, whatever the idea is, go see if you could explore it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Let's hit some of the comments. There's a lull here. Let's see. Miguel Sandoval says, Dean Esmay, love your men's rights work. Dean Esmay, who's going by Max now, but would you ever would you ever invite Mercedes Carrera on Red Pill Religion? Love to hear opinions from both sides.
I might consider talking to Mercedes. I think she would be afraid to talk to me. I find that an awful lot of publicly expressed atheists are, especially when they've built their identity around it. But sure, I give it a try. The thing is that even on social science grounds, without raising religious objections at all, I think there's reasons to question her profession and whether it's a net good to society. If she'd have that conversation with me, though, I will. I'd have that conversation with the old honey badgers if they'd stop lying about me and who I am.
We'll get into honey badgers, but I just as a side note, I want to mention that I did a talk with Brian Martinez, right, on the show. You know that. And it was a great talk. And after the talk, I thought to myself, this guy has an in with Mercedes Carrera. Why don't I try and contact her? Because the only way I could contact her was through Twitter. And I tried to get in touch with this chick. I thought, because my channel is dedicated to men, so having a woman would be like breaking the rules of my channel. So I thought, well, it's a porn star, though. That would be interesting. If I could get her on, that'd be great. So I went through, every possible avenue I could to contact her. And I don't even know in the end, because these are porn stars, man. They're celebrities, right? You probably have a better way to contact her than I did at the time. And I'm not on Twitter anymore, so I couldn't do it anyway. But
I'm not on Twitter anymore either.
Yeah, that's right. You're not on Twitter either.
I got a lifetime ban.
Yeah, me too, man. But anyway, what I'm saying is I tried to contact her through whatever means I could, and Twitter seemed to be the best way. And I started having a conversation. She had a couple different accounts. So I'm like, I have to understand, is that really her? Or is it just like a dummy account? Is somebody else running it? And in the end, she agreed to come on the show if I bought her an Amazon card. And it was at that point I said, no, this is probably not even her. So I gave her.
Well, even if it is, she's ultimately a sex worker, dude. And, so, she wants to get paid just to go on a show, which there are celebrities that are like that.
Yeah, well, I think that's one of the reasons I did get actually ejected from Twitter. I don't have the evidence because they won't tell you, but I think it's because I used to make fun of porn stars.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not a fan either. And again, someone will accuse me of just being religious on that. I'm like, no. You know what? Even when I was an atheist, I had a real problem with it.
Well,
Um,
it's not just that. There's the one Jenna Jameson. I was following her, and she was kept
hey,
preaching.
I
Yeah,
need a 3 minute break. Can you guys talk about something else while I'm gone? I need to run away, but I'll be right back.
yeah.
I
Go ahead,
apologize.
man. Go ahead, man. Well,
Well, that's what got you banned, I think, on
I think
Twitter.
so too.
Uh,
I think so
yeah.
too. I don't. There's no evidence of it though, because remember they can do it retroactively, and I did.
Now, you really were pissing off Jenna Jameson. Who
Oh
are
yeah,
you kidding?
yeah, I did.
You trolled her hard.
I did. But
Donald Trump would be proud.
but she was trying to fucking preach the fact she's a single mother on Facebook.
I know you were not having it. I agree with you. It's bullshit.
Fucking bullshit. Sit down, bitch. It's not your arena. You want to talk about fucking and sucking? Go ahead.
Well, it's funny who she panders to, which is in fact
Yes.
religious groups and conservatives, which is such a contradictory thing. It's mind blowing that the I guess the religious right would embrace her so quickly, and this goes back to hypergamy.
Well, the religious right were white knighting her hardcore against me.
Yeah.
Hardcore, like just men. The religious right, these men would come on and go, "How dare you insult this beautiful woman?" It's like, what the fuck, dude? Oh man. Yeah, she's a single mother, John Baptiste. She's got more than one kid from more than one dude. But her idea is to.
I'm back.
Oh, you're back.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt though.
No, it's okay. Yeah, John Baptiste says she's a single mother now. Yes, Jenna Jameson is a single mother. She's got more than one kid by more than one dude, and she now is being defended. When I was criticizing her for coming on and saying how great of a single mother she was, I couldn't handle it. I was like, get the fuck out of here. And all of these men from the religious right, because she is pandering. Lamprey said while you were gone, Max, that she's pandering to. She's hit the wall, way past the wall. She's a mother, ex porn star, just torn, used up, and now she's pandering to the religious right.
Yeah,
And they defended her. They white knighted for her.
Yes, and that is still such a sore point with me because when I was still in men's rights, and I'm still active on some of the forums, but it's not my center of focus anymore. It can't be. I wanted to be able to effectively challenge religious conservatives who did that. Like, for all that we've exchanged some really hostile words with each other, I thought that Paul Elam had once had one of the best, stinging rebukes to, like, William Bennett and other religious so-called conservatives, because they're completely arrogant and blind. Now, sadly, what's happened over at ABFM, and particularly embraced by the honey badgers, is this idea that this so-called gynocentrism, which I hate the word, but whatever, this so-called gynocentrism is rooted in either the Christian religion or the Jewish religion or the Abrahamic faith as a whole are responsible for so-called gynocentrism. That's one of and they refuse to be openly confronted about that doctrine. They just spread it.
That's bullshit. I mean, there's gynocentrism. Gynocentrism is a biological response based on how we were created, so it's going to happen.
Well, what I would say is that it was specific. What I could tell you, and this is just insider, it was Peter Wright's thing. He goes by several different names other than.
I lost you, man.
His MGTOW book, along with his fake MG. I'm sorry, you lost me.
Go ahead. Repeat, because for some reason you cut out. We're good though. Repeat.
I don't like the word gynocentrism, although I admit I used to defend it, but it really has its origin and should be given to Peter Wright, who wrote the fake MGTOW book. And yeah, it is a fake MGTOW book. And he also has coined the gynocentrism phrase. And the problem is while the phrase itself is not objectionable, the underlying philosophy is very much like patriarchy theory. Mm-hmm. And gynocentrism theory, which Peter Wright and Alison Tiemann and others of the neo-Marxist set, that were always kind of there in the background in men's rights. We're trying to get this idea that gynocentrism caused by religion, especially the Christian Catholic religion, but also the Abrahamic faiths in general, is responsible for gynocentrism. So it's a whole theory like patriarchy theory. And it's a garbage theory, and you can tell it's a garbage theory because they tried to get it snuck into academia. They wanted to get gender studies departments to adopt it. And they failed to do so, at least they have successfully to date. But you'll notice that these people will not allow their gynocentrism theory to be challenged, and they will not allow their anti-religious bigotry problem, which they have in spades, to be challenged, to be simply challenged. And, you know, that's one of the reasons red pill religion exists. Because I was always in men's rights because I thought God wanted me there. And I do mean that. And I told people that. And I don't know. Apparently they didn't hear me or something.
Did you know, I don't know if you're aware of this, Max, but in the Quran there is a verse, and I'm not going to quote to you exactly the number of the verse where it is. I just know it very well because of the content of what it says. And it talks about, again, it's God talking to the listener, and the listener and you can tell when you read the Quran, its audience, intended audience, is a male mind. It's not intended for a female mind. And that's just the way it is. And there's one verse where it says, and I know you'll like this because it's religion related. There's a verse where it says that these two, now of course there's differencing opinions on what the translation actually means, but there's two names used, Harut and Marut, and they're described as either angels, and some people believe them, maybe they were just men of authority. But they came down, this was during the time of Sulaiman, which is Solomon, right?
Right.
During the time of Sulaiman, Harut and Marut came down, that's how it's said, came down, and they are described as angels, but there's, some people disagree with that. They came down and they taught the people, quote unquote, magic. And the magic they taught them, but again, the magic was a test. It was a test. And the magic they taught them, and again, of all the magics that God could have decided to use as an example to the listener of the Quran at the time, the one example used was the magic they taught to them was how to turn a woman against her partner or husband.
That's an interesting.
Very
That's an interesting story. Yeah, and in fact, MGTOW ought to really study in the Old Testament. They should study the story of Samson and Delilah, and they should study the story of Jezebel. And there's other women we could mention too, but the Bible is full of lousy, manipulative women and illustrations about them. Jezebel, was hated and eventually destroyed because she tried to take and misuse male power. And Delilah, when you really read the tale of Samson and Delilah, it's very short, so you can miss it. But if you're not paying attention, but there's many subtleties to it. And one of the big things in the tale of Samson and Delilah was what an obvious simp to a pretty face Samson was, because Delilah literally was an obvious whore who was very attractive and alluring and had honeyed lips and got his confidence, and she kept trying to get him to give away his secrets to her. And once he eventually did, she turned him over to his enemies by revealing what his greatest weakness was. I mean, and if you turn to the New Testament, I've heard this batshit theory that guys that love the Virgin Mary become worshipers of women. I'm going to tell you something. If somebody really loves the Virgin Mary a lot, I actually pray the rosary every day. No, you get an appreciation of the Virgin Mary, and every other woman falls quite short of her glory. It's quite the opposite. You don't wind up worshiping women. You wind up seeing how imperfect women are. The Christian message is that men and women are of equal value in the eyes of God.
Yes, that's the same in Quran. Quran
they
says
are,
the same.
but they are different, and they'll always be different. And I'd say Christianity is probably a little more flexible with gender roles than some versions of Islam, at least, which tend to get real specific on things, but for the most part, the Christian way is just appreciating these differences, and men and women aren't the same. And even what we might call patriarchy isn't so much like enforced as just like the natural
It's a
order of
natural order, absolutely.
You'll see, for example, like you'll see this myth that women are treated as property, and it's like garbage. Go back and read like Proverbs 31, which was written 1,000 or more years before Christ, and it talks about what a good wife is. And she goes out and she opens businesses, and she buys land and plants fields and sells goods and works to support her family and works to support her husband, and it's just horseshit that women were just property and we're not. The Bible doesn't say that. Bible expects women to work. Bible expects women to pull their weight. Bible has expectations on women, just like it does for men. And it doesn't have that strict gender rules. It really doesn't.
Well, it's
But
the whole concept, the whole kind of almost, I suppose, atheist concept of egalitarianism, which is a big thing now. You know, the idea that we need to put everybody on some kind of equal playing field. The only time that individuals are equal to one another, and it includes men, includes women, the only time is in the eyes of God. That is the only time they're considered.
Yeah, and the, that's exactly correct. And at any given moment, we're all going to fall short. We just are.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, from a Catholic perspective, those of us who love the Virgin Mary, again, men are supposed to live up to the image of Christ, which we all fail to do, and women are supposed to live up to the image of Mary, which they all fail to do. So this whole idea that us Mary lovers are women worshippers is just wrong from jump.
I've never heard that before, man, but I can see where it comes from.
Peter Wright in his bullshit, and Allison Demons, a co-conspirator on this, in their bullshit gynocentrism narrative, have a real hate for the Virgin Mary. It comes through in a lot of the material on their gynocentrism.com site and some of the gynocentrism literature. They deny it, but they won't have a straight-up conversation about it. They refuse to do so. They've also refused to be scientifically challenged on some of the things in their gynocentrism narrative, because their whole gynocentrism narrative is total social justice, neo-Marxist, postmodernist gibberish that can't be defended. And they know this. Allison knows it. Peter knows it. And they run from anybody, not just me, who's tried to challenge on it. And they smear their critics. They've smeared me and quite a few of their critics with lies about us and what we're saying.
I was on Brian Martinez's Fireside Chat, and that's actually how I got to have him come on my show, because he asked me first, and he's a great guy, man. But there was, I watched the Honey Badgers once in a while, and a couple weeks ago I was watching them, and I sent Brian a message through Skype, and I wanted him to look at it while the stream was running, so I sent them a super chat, and I just donated $1. It's nothing, right? I donated $1, and so I sent the super chat, and I just said, hey, check your Skype, because I wanted, if you don't super chat them, they're not going to see your comments. And as soon as he read it out, as soon as he said, hey, we got a super chat from Ayam Sidious, the entire Honey Badger panel just went dead quiet. I don't think they like me, man.
Brian is not such a good guy, in my opinion. I'm sorry, he's not. He can be very serious and jovial, but he played a role in. I won't even go to the last time I was on one of their fireside chats, except that they punked me out really bad, and I found out that he and the other Badgers were involved in efforts to harass and defame me even before that. It was not a good show. I sounded really upset. They punked me. These people still deny. They still deny that I created the Honey Badger name, but I did. They still deny that I had anything to do with their founding, but I did. They simply lie and deny it. And anytime any of us have either been mean and nasty about it, because I've been mean and nasty about it, but before being nasty, it was various ways of trying to be nice. They will not be challenged. And they make statements about religion, and they have mistreated multiple religious men of multiple religions on multiple occasions, and they will not answer for it. And when they use anti-religious hate propaganda, which they have done, they again will not be challenged. They will not be challenged at all when they get history wrong, or when they caricaturize, otherize, and cartoon religious men. They've smeared me, they've smeared others, including, what could easily be, what has to be called cases of a form of assault from them, men, just for the crime of being near them and religious. I've had Muslims complain about this. I've had Christians of various denominations complain about this. I've had Jews complain about it. I've got multiple members of my team or people who just hang out on my server who are sick of it. The honey badgers abuse religious men, and they abuse history, and they peddle pseudoscience, and they won't be challenged on any of it. They turn into Steve Shives. They turn into Lacey Green. They malign, mischaracterize, and will not acknowledge their critics. They will not acknowledge multiple people who were part of making them happen, not just me, or they lie about it.
Well,
I don't, and it's not okay, because I would say that they are also raising money under false pretenses and ought to be investigated legally. I'm very ashamed that I helped make them popular, but I did. And the fact that they won't even acknowledge that I did, and that it wasn't just me either. There was other guys who got reason to be mad at them. Yeah. No. Brian puts on a show of being a good guy, but the real ringleader is Allison.
Oh, I imagine it. There's no way a man runs that show. That's run by women.
Allison Tiemann is the creepy little theosophist at the center of it all.
Yep.
And she won't admit to her religion either. Probably because it is theosophy. And she gets real upset when someone mentions that, but it's not deniable.
Isn't that like devil worship?
Well, it depends on which version of theosophy you get into. My grandmother was into it for a while, and there's some what you might call more positive versions. But no, when you get right down into it, it's rooted in something called the Luciferian doctrine.
Krishnamurti, right?
Well, I mean, actually, you'll find Madame Blavatsky
and Krishnamurti was involved with them. I'm pretty sure, man.
Oh, sure. I'm trying to remember the name. It's actually a very large and interesting philosophy. I'm trying to remember the author. She specifically mentioned that she got Typhon Blue out of. But she has gone by and goes by Typhon Blue, and that's a reference to an Egyptian god of chaos. And you read stuff like Thomas More Johnson and stuff like that. He gets into it, and Typhon is actually a soul destroyer. Typhon's depending on which tradition you're following, Typhon is either a god of pure chaos and destructive wrath, or one that destroys souls by learning their weaknesses and then exploiting them and then devouring them.
Let me pause you for a second, because you're actually answering some questions that have come up already, so I just want to address them. Because Slaughterhouse Cartoons is asked a couple times, like, what do you think about the occult side? And you're actually answering it right now. So let's.
The Badgers are steeped in occultism. How deep it goes, I didn't know how deep it goes. Now I don't know. They say it's lies, all lies. But Hannah had confessed to me multiple occasions that she had at least at one time been involved in a couple of different pagan covens. We know Allison's is definitely into theosophy. Which is basically an inverted form of the Abrahamic tale. The Luciferian doctrine in theosophy is rooted in this inversion of the Abrahamic tradition of the Garden of Eden, and they hold that Lucifer was the good guy, and that he was, God didn't want us to eat from the tree of knowledge, which is a complete inversion of what any of the Abrahamic faiths actually believe. But it kind of starts from there. And like I said, there's more positive strains, there's more negative strains. Ask to see your tattoos sometimes, because a lot of those tattoos have significance to those folks. I mean, I'm not against tattoos, but the Badgers really need to get open about their religious bias and honest about what it is, and where it comes from. And they got to be honest that they cannot represent men's human rights adequately if they consistently shut down critics of their religious views, and they have religious views. And if they continually marginalize and malign religion and religious men, this is not okay. especially because if you bother looking at the research, I would point out to you, this is something not just for them either. Anybody interested in MGTOW and men's rights, look for a book called Triumph of Faith by Dr. Rodney Stark. And before you bother balking at the title, Triumph of Faith, read it. He's a very respected sociologist with hundreds of peer-reviewed papers to his name. Very, very respected sociology professor. And he'll tell you every religion in the world is on a growth phase, and secularism and ideological atheism have been on a sharp decline for a decade. It's not going to turn around. It's not just Christianity that it's exploding everywhere, although it is, even in France, surprisingly.
The Muslim
but
religion,
Islam is still growing.
if the Muslim religion grows
Hinduism-
because the Muslim religion is growing faster because they're having like 8 kids, man.
Well, you know who else is doing that is the Orthodox Jews.
That's true. That's true. That's
And
true.
the real serious Orthodox type Christians are still doing that. And contrary to the secularization hypothesis, it's been debunked. The children of the religious do not become atheists as a rule. They might sometimes go through a phase, but the children of the religious stay religious. And the children of atheist homes, 2 out of 3 of them become religious.
I believe that. I believe that.
Yes, yes. And so the reality is ideological atheism is a Darwinian dead end and is in rapid decline. Human spirituality is normal and will never go away. You have to come to grips with it. And I would say, I say this all the time. Oh my God, if you're not going to be a Christian, please reinvent the Stoic religion. Become a Taoist. Oh my God, be a pagan. At least you'll be interesting.
Yeah.
And that is, one of our war cries and upsets some people, but too bad. And within men's rights, this conversation needs to be had because virulent anti-religiosity is a dead end market. Furthermore, if you're going to be anti-religious, this would go for people like Paul Elam, who continues to deny it's a problem, even though he knows it is one. It's a dying market, really. Religion is exploding everywhere. Interest in the supernatural is occurring everywhere. And it's not irrational and it's not unhealthy. And if you don't learn to talk to religious people and listen to their concerns, you can't advocate for men's human rights. You cannot marginalize religious men that way and demonize them and lampoon them and caricaturize them and misstate what they believe. That is otherizing. That is dehumanizing. They need to address these at both AFM, but particularly at the Honey Badger Brigade. And it might start, in my opinion, by acknowledging that Karen and Allison did not even like the Honey Badger name when I gave it to them, or if they would acknowledge that the first Honey Badgers in order were named Christina Hansen, Diana Davison, and Aaron Pitsey. Number 4 was going to be Typhon, but that's when Allison, that's when we decided to do a nerd show called Tales from the Infrared together. All of the current Honey Badgers are not the original Honey Badgers. They could just acknowledge that, and they could say thank you to the people who made them, even if we don't agree on other things. But they can't do that. And this is why, their relevance of anything they're doing in men's rights is severely hampered. So that's my rant about that. I don't even want to talk to some of them. I wouldn't want to talk to Karen. The fuck. I might talk to Senator Paul, but I'm not going to beg to talk to them. Right. I think they've really fucked up, though. They really have, in a big, big way.
Well, back to when you were saying the idea of religion is growing and atheism is dying. You have to remember, atheism really has its roots in kind of the opulent West. It's really hard to find it if you go to Southeast Asia. It's really difficult to find it.
Oh, actually it is. And there's reasons for that. Ultimately, like I said, atheism is not natural to the human animal. If you believe evolution, then you have to believe that atheism is not a viable trait. Yeah. It really isn't. They'll like even try to claim that Japan and try to claim that Japan is hyper secularized. No, it's not. Japan is arguably the most religious nation on earth. Their native Shinto religion is so powerful and so strong, they don't even consider it a religion. They just consider it part of being Japanese. Like more than 90% of Japanese will say they are not religious, but that's because in their minds that means joining some organized mosque or church or whatever, and they don't do that. They practice Shinto.
Yeah, they
And
don't
like
count the Shinto when they say religion.
more than 90% of Japanese homes have at least one Shinto shrine in them. The vast majority of Japanese, when surveyed, have said that in the last year they've gone to at least one religious temple and done something there. One Shinto temple. Some go far more often, but that's the majority of them. They just don't consider it, quote, a religion, unquote. They just believe in the spiritual and the supernatural, that there's a God behind it all, that there are other gods, that they're going to be judged by their ancestors. They believe this. It's just embedded in the culture. There's nothing atheist about the Japanese.
Yeah. Also, the Koreans I found are very similar too. There seems to be sort of this Western idea that the Koreans are very secular or atheist, and it's not true at all. They're very Catholic or very Buddhist. And I wanted to kind of address one of the questions or one of the comments in the section. Slaughterhouse Cartoons says the Nazi symbol is a sigil for magic. Actually, the Nazi symbol is a Buddhist symbol that's been flipped around.
The swastika has thousands of years of heritage and has been used in many religions. I don't even know if the Buddhists would have been the first. Christians have used it. Christians have used it. Jews have even used it. Ironically enough, the swastika has been found in ancient synagogues, like more than 1,000 years old. It's really just a crooked cross, and it's now indelibly in our minds as a Nazi symbol. But
they reversed the Buddhist image. Now you're right. The Buddhist probably. I mean, it probably predates Buddhism.
Well, I mean, it's been found in Native American religions, which I don't think they probably didn't get that from Buddha.
Yeah, exactly.
It's an obvious shape, actually, if you look at it. Literally, if you draw a plus sign and then bend the corners, you have it. I mean, people are going to come up with that on their own.
Yeah.
And
Slaughterhouse says it's a sigil for magic. I don't know about that. Maybe.
It will be considered a sigil for magic for some, yes. And by the way, as someone, I unabashedly believe in magic, which also puts me, or in certain kinds of magic, not all magic, but certain kinds of magic, which puts me in the majority of humans, by the way, even though I have high IQ and I understand science. Yeah, people do use things like the swastika as a sigil. There's quite a few of them out there. Christians consider those dangerous to play with. I bet that Muslims do too.
Yeah, well, yeah, Muslims they're pretty wary of that kind of stuff for sure. Well, you know what? Before we get too deep into tonight, and I would like you, if you have an opportunity, if you feel like it, to explain to myself and the listeners about what happened with AVFM.
We've certainly had some very, very, very cross words, although I contend that I started trying to be nice and was simply being snubbed. We've been going 90 minutes, and I'm getting tired.
Yeah.
Can we? And they're going to have their side, I suppose. But what I predict is that they will refuse to have a side, because there's certain people there I've said I won't speak to, but there's others I would. I don't think any of them has the guts to. And basically, I'll put it flatly: it's because of the gynocentric narrative. It's because of the neo-Marxism, and it's because of the committed anti-religious ideology that's embedded in too much of what they do. That's essentially what caused the rift, because while they will spread rumors and lies that I became a fundamentalist, that I turned into a Muslim and a jihadist, that was floated for a little while, that I'm a fundamentalist, that I hate everybody who won't adopt my religion or my idea of God, that I wanted to take over everything. No, what happened is I wanted them to stop being nasty to religious people and stop treating religious people like they were the enemy, or like they were mentally ill, or that religion was the cause of all of our woes. And I wanted them to be willing to take criticism and opposing views, and they wouldn't do it. They preferred to, in my view, they preferred their critics, and they preferred to smear me. And I will say they got involved, especially those hypergamous badgers got involved with Sargon and his filthy little skeptic network, and those guys turned out to be all worthless thugs, didn't they? Yeah. I mean, Sargon's getting his little Streisand effect now and playing victim, but he's helped deplatform and smear a lot of other people.
Well,
And
he got completely
it's a
banned
nasty
from
gas.
what was
Yeah.
it from Patreon, right?
Yeah, and I don't
Hey,
feel sorry.
Lamprey, we're getting a lot of feedback coming from your end there.
I'm good. Are you from me, really?
Yeah, there was like a clicking or something.
But I forgot what we were saying there.
Oh, I just mentioned that.
So Sargon.
Yeah, Sargon got banned
Oh yeah,
from
I
Patreon.
mean, yeah, and I don't think he should be. But then again, he's a hypocrite who hasn't spoken when many others, have lost channel. I mean, we've gone through deplatforming and suspensions, and had to run from channel to channel, all while trying to criticize him and some of his shit. And all he did was lie about us. Even had one of his assistants threaten physical violence toward one of my assistants, and yet he floats a rumor that I'm just obsessed with him because over the last 3 years we sent 5 atheist response videos his way. What a moron! What a coward! He's no friend to free speech. What he did with harmful opinions was disgusting. What we saw in the Candid Affair, and actually, I would just say this: if you look into the Atheist Skeptic Network, they do a lot of dirty work for under the table cash. I'm not going to name names, but I will say that when that happens, people, atheists got no morals, so they eventually turn on you and they eventually snitch. And I've had people come to me and confess that they were put up to harass me and smear me, multiple people. And they did it to others too, because they wanted control of the narrative coming out of Cassie J's Red Pill movie. Cassie J, who got screwed and used by a lot of people, including men's rights people. Yeah, I'm rambling now, but
no, you know what? Hey, Max, let's go into Red Pill before you leave. Can we talk a little bit about it before you go? Because
and I hope I can have you on Red Pill Religion soon to talk about some religious issues, man, because these things matter. But go ahead, ask me about Red Pill movie.
Okay, so for the listeners here, if you don't know already, Max was on the Red Pill documentary done by Cassie J, which came out. When did it come out? 2 years ago?
About a year and a half ago, I think. Well, it would have been January 2017, so almost 2 years now.
Almost 2 years.
Yeah.
Okay, now if you guys haven't seen it,
it's a good movie.
It's great. It's a great documentary. Of course, I didn't pay for it, but I did watch it.
Cassie J got totally screwed, man. I mean, she went broke on that thing.
Well, I mean, you can tell the production value is fantastic. She did a lot of work, and the reason why it's very popular in, let's say, our circles is because here you had a woman who was a staunch feminist and believed in feminism, and then decided to go out and make a video about the men's rights activists who, of course, must be women haters and horrible people, and she wanted to expose men's rights. What ended up happening is this woman recorded thousands of hours of interviews and footage for the documentary, and when it was done, she's like, I don't believe in feminism anymore. I mean, that's really the most mind-bending thing about this whole project that she went through. And I have a lot of respect for the woman that did this. And she's gotten hate. She's tried to do showings all over the world, including Australia, where they had demonstrations to shut her down. Like, as soon as you go against the feminist narrative, you're not allowed to speak anymore. And this woman went through that. She goes, you know what? I'm not a feminist anymore. Here's my documentary. Here's all the work that I've put into it, all the money, the blood, the sweat, and the tears I've put into this. Would you like to come and watch it? And they were like, fuck you. You're not allowed to show your video, your movie here. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's incredible. And part of the problem there was, I can get into it. I will remember fondly, though, that the first time we met, Cassie and I said, and I don't think she got this on camera, I don't remember it, I said, you realize this might be the last movie you ever make? And, she looked at me like I might be a little crazy. But I had a feeling about her. I really, really did. That I saw at least one of her other movies, and while I had issues with that movie that I could go into, I could tell that she seemed to be a basically very honest and sincere person. Mm-hmm. And I just got this kind of spiritual vibe off of her, even though I know she comes from a really fucked up religious background. really badly fucked up religious background, that she's just struck me as a spiritual person and as a person who just wouldn't lie. And that was the vibe I got off of her. And I like, my heart was sinking for her because I meant it, and I was very possibly right. You know, it's a great
You
film.
could have been right, man. You could have been right.
It's a great film. There are flaws in it, and I have severe criticisms of some of the people in it. And I definitely say be careful about giving anybody in that movie money. The only person who should be getting money is Cassie J.
Cassie,
She kind of got screwed, as certain parties decided to, they owned the movies and they owned all the men's rights, and just sucked down tons of money while she's just scraping to get by. She went more than a year without getting paid anything, and she got censored everywhere. She's doing okay on Patreon, but other people have done better than her. It's sad, is what it is, because the men's rights community does not get behind people. Yeah, you got certain individuals who want to say all the men's rights belong to us, and anybody else is crazy or bad or stupid. And all you religious wackadoodles, stay the fuck away from us. And it's tragic all the way around what happened after Red Pill Movie. But Red Pill Movie is a great film. Everybody should see it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you've seen it.
And I've been struggling hard to get religious audiences, especially, to see it, because they're the ones who are going to make the biggest difference. This wraps it around to something I was saying earlier. There is a problem with a so-called gynocentric attitude that comes out of a lot of the religious right and a lot of religious conservatives. I've even caught this out of Robert Stacey McCain and what's his name, John Hawkins from Right Wing News, and quite a few others. They're not conscious is all that's happening. They're still blue pilled, and they believe some of the feminist narrative, and they thus and they are taking on a female centric way of looking at things it's not actually biblical. Okay, women sin as much as men. Women lie. Women lie a lot, actually, just like men. I'll give you a favorite.
Everybody that's listening to us now knows that. So
yeah, well, so does the Bible.
Yeah.
So does Christian religion. Women are
so
as
the Quran, man. So is the Quran.
Men. I know. Women are as sinful and nasty as men. They're just different. I'll give you a great quote from, I can't remember this guy. He goes by The Bad Catholic, and he's published several books. He's really funny. He calls himself The Bad Catholic's Guide to Family Life, Bad Catholic's Guide to this or that. It's actually all tongue-in-cheek and humorous. But he starts talking about issues like sexual abuse and violence and rape and he's like, I was talking about this, how the modern people seem to think, women never do bad things unless they're driven to it by a controlling man or an abusive man. And the priest says, really? Has he ever met a woman? Does he know any women? Has he ever heard confession from a woman? What are you talking about? Women can be every kind of evil, just like men can. They just tend to be different. They're more gossipy. Their weapons are words. Their weapons are backstabbing you verbally, back-talking you, manipulating you into doing things with a pretty face. But they're every bit as evil as men, and that's why feminists can't usually stand. In the end, they can't stand these religions because, contrary to what you've been told, these religions hold women accountable. Women have certain privileges and obligations. Men have certain privileges and obligations. But in the final analysis, it's ridiculous. But these people spread this narrative that somehow this female favoring is ultimately rooted in religion. And it's a garbage thesis that needs to be challenged openly. And that is something that I will say again, a voice for men and Honey Badger are terrified to even have the conversation. Prefer to hear instead and quote their critics out of context and spread rumors about their critics. Yeah. And I ain't the only one. So that's where I would end there. Otherwise, yeah, I am getting tired, but I want to bring you on, and I want to talk about religion more with you on Red Pill Religion at least once.
Oh, absolutely, man.
And because men need to think seriously about religion. Religion is a serious topic. And you can't just shrug it off. You're not going to convert us all to atheism. In fact, most atheists eventually become not atheists. It's mostly a male trait, and it's mostly a trait of fatherless males at that. And most grow out of it. You got to take the spiritual seriously, or we got real scientific evidence that you get sick if you don't, and that you're actually easier to manipulate, not harder, when you take this hard line scientific materialist stance. So that's the kind of shit we're all about on Red Pill Religion.
That's right. That's great, man. I'd love to come on. I mean, I have some very interesting and unique insights in regards to Islam, and how I, and that all comes down to where I
We need to
live.
hear 'em. We need to hear them because, again, you're not going to get rid of Islam by just screaming at Muslims.
Mhm.
Or bombing them.
Huh?
Or bombing them.
That's not going to do it.
Yeah,
That's not going to do it. That's not going to do it. And if you say you're going to make them atheists, that ain't going to work either.
Yeah.
So I want to think of other alternatives. So there you go.
All right, man. Well, it was good to have you on tonight. Let me just quickly, before you take off, let me quickly check the chats and make sure everybody. Mekong Farong's in. Modern Male is very feminine and gossipy as well.
Can be.
Yeah, can be. Very
That's what happens to guys raised by women.
That's right.
Guys raised by single women, by single mothers, and then going through a school system that is dominated by almost all female teachers.
Yes.
It's completely disastrously bad for your psychology, and men need to learn how to separate from women more.
Yes.
But they've been taught to fear the older generation of men, and part of that is because they've been taught to fear religion. But anyway, I'm rambling.
No, that's absolutely true. Nowadays, single motherhood is the single biggest pariah on Western civilization. And,
It is.
and our masters know it, and they know exactly what they're doing.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. I see we've got a lot to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
All right, man. I'm going to go now because I'm very tired, but I was really honored to be on. I am willing to talk to at least some people from men's rights, not all of them. Some I'm too angry to speak to, but a few I've mentioned I would talk to. I don't think they've got the guts to. I don't think any of them got the guts to. But anybody who wants to come on over on Red Pill Religion, we got friendly atheists, we got agnostics, we got Muslims, we got Jews, we got Hindus. I'm not kidding. We got all this. We got deists. We sit around and we talk about history, science, philosophy, politics, and religion because those are all great topics. So God bless you all. Assalamu alaikum.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
Christmas, and God bless us, everyone.
All right, brother. All right, keep in touch, all right? We'll talk to you later. He's out. You still there? Lamprey?
Yep.
So what did you think?
Well, that was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Man of many words.
Oh,
nice to hear another point of view, I guess, religious point of view.
Well, no, it's not just that, but I mean, he's got a strong history in the MRA movement. I mean, he's 10 years my senior, or more, and he's been involved in this MRA movement for a long time. And of course, as things happen in life, there was fallings outs and stuff, but. More than just, I mean, the religious content is one thing. I mean, I love talking about religion. I get a kick out of it. But besides that, I really like the fact that he has ties to a lot of people in MRA communities. Very close ties, man. Intimate ties with these people that are still going. They're still publishing. They're still publishing papers and websites and videos. And he kind of just fell through a crack in that, and there it is. Very fascinating.
Well, those are the best types of people to get on, or the ones that have somewhat of a falling out, or people that are a bit of a fly on the wall in these type of movements and these type of groups.
Yeah, agreed. Anyway, do you want to continue for a little bit? Maybe go for another.
What are we at? Are we at an hour and a half?
We're at an hour and 40 minutes. We should probably only do about 2 hours. We did a marathon last time.
We can end it tonight. We can end it there.
Okay. Yeah, guys, we did a marathon for you Friday, and I know people have been. I've seen people bug us about it. Why don't you guys go longer? Well, we did. There it is.
All right.
All right, guys. So take it easy, and we will see you again next weekend. I don't know. We don't really have a guest lined up. However. Before we go, I just want to mention that Slaughterhouse wants to come on in January but we'll work on that and see how it goes. I'm sure it will happen.
We're up to 20 watching right now.
Yeah, I know. We're starting to get a lot more people coming in and watching. Yes, we did a stream Friday, Greg Q, and I'm sorry that you didn't see, you didn't get a notification. Double check your subscription, make sure the bell is pressed. But we did a stream Friday with Red Pill Philosophy. It was fantastic. Greg Q says he wants to come on. All right, man. If you want to come on, look, we'll discuss it. We'll discuss it. See what you want to come on and talk about. But yeah, we did a stream last Friday with Red Pill Philosophy. Great channel. He's moved towards Flat Earth, so there's the first hour is us talking to him about Flat Earth, so it's fantastic. Go check it out and share it with your buddies. All right. So,
All right. Merry Christmas, all. We'll be in touch. Stay psyched. Stay
Yes.
positive. Love you.
all right, love you guys. Merry Christmas. Everybody take care. Happy New Year. And we should have a stream next weekend. So we'll see you then. Bye-bye.